Hi, this is Nathan Tintle. In this video, we're going to talk about the difference between statistical significance and practical importance using the parapsychology studies example. What does it mean to say something is statistically significant? Really, this means, is the p-value small? In other words, would the observed outcome have happened by chance? Well, in this case, in the 2124 Ganzfeld sessions, getting a 33.4% success rate would rarely happen by chance if the null hypothesis is true. That is, if the psychics were just randomly guessing between the four images. The standardized z-statistic is 8.9. The p-value is extremely small. This is statistically significant. The observed result, 33.4%, would rarely happen by chance. That is, if the null hypothesis was true. An important but different question is this result practically important? This is really a context question, not a statistical question. In other words, is the difference or change we see from the null hypothesis enough to be interesting and important to the researcher? Well, in this case, the psychics aren't doing great. They're really only getting a third correct. Now, that is substantially more than we would expect just by chance. But we could also say they're only getting 1 in 3 right. Maybe we would expect them to do better. So why is this result statistically significant, but not necessarily, depending on your interpretation, practically important? The number one reason here is large sample size. 2,124 sessions that we're evaluating. This means it won't take much difference from the null hypothesis to be statistically significant. The 33% is not that different from 25%. But because of the very large sample size, we get a statistically significant result. That's because our p-value is so small. In order to evaluate practical importance, a confidence interval may be more informative. Here, the 95% confidence interval says we're 95% sure that the true hit rate in these Ganzfeld sessions with these psychics is between 31.4% and 35.4%. A couple of words of caution. Practical importance is context dependent, and thus it's somewhat subjective. The important thing to realize is statistical significance, that is a small p-value, does not necessarily imply practical importance. Now, well-designed studies often try to equate the two so that statistical significance and practical importance become the same thing, but that's not always the case because not all studies are well-designed and designed in that way. Finally, look at the sample size. If your sample size is very large, expect to get a significant result almost all the time, and then have to determine if that significant result has practical importance. And if the sample size is very small, expect a non-significant result in most cases. A lot of missed opportunities, and then you have to ask yourself, even though we didn't have a statistically significant result, might this issue still be of practical importance?